yeah. Episode 108, I believe, of the Scott Gibson Show. I am Scott Gibson. Who else would I fucking be at this point? Sending our love and prayers to Ukraine, but they do not need our love or prayers. They need our guns and our bombs and our private jets. Our private jets, our pilots, our jets, our men on the ground. You're not getting it. You're not getting it, is the message from the British government. Do they listen to the people? Do they? Fuck! World War III is coming. You know? It's happening. Whether you like it or no, whether you're willing to accept it or no, it's coming. It's coming, and it's going to be upsetting. It's already upsetting. You know? Currently the UK is doing its bit. It has sanctioned the oligarchs by sanctioning. It's told them that the sanctions are coming, and if you want to keep your millions and your mansions and your yachts, you either better become a member of the House of Lords as quick as you can, or we're giving you 90 days to sell up. Isn't that kind of them? Isn't that kind of the British government? Isn't that kind of the Tories? Almost it makes you think that maybe they're doing this because there's billions of Russian fucking money running through the veins of the Tories. I mean, I'm just a common man. What would I know about politics? I imagine it's an expensive game to be a floppy-haired buffoon and somehow find yourself as Prime Minister. I imagine if you were once the mayor of the great city of London, I imagine you probably would want some back pockets filled from the Russian oligarchs. And now you find yourself in a position where you're going to have to take away the toys from the very men and women who put you there. It must be difficult to be a Tory scumbag bastard these days, eh? But at least the Home Office is doing its bit by allowing, at this moment, 6.5 Ukrainian refugees. The half being someone who was caught up in a mortar attack in one of the humanitarian corridors. We seem to have a lot of people who are able to translate speeches from the UN or from various Russian and Ukrainian leaders. Possibly we could get someone to go over to Russia and explain to them what a humanitarian corridor is. He thought he's a corridor of humans for us to... No, it's actually a corridor for people to leave, peacefully and safely. Okay, we make a mistake. Good news is we're on the list. Good news is we are on the list. Right? So there's no need to worry anymore. And now I think we might as well go full throttle. You know? Now, with regards to the war, we have been kind of dipping our toe into the icy waters of communism. That's a good line. That might be the title of this episode. The icy waters of communism. Dipping our toes in. We have stripped down to the Union Jack bungee smugglers. Budgie smugglers, smuggling a bungee. And we've dipped our toes in the water of war. But Russia has now published a list. It's called, according to the media, a revenge list. 43 countries are on Russia's revenge list, and we have made the list. Yes, we have. So there's no point now in sitting back. There's no point now in saying to ourselves, we're not putting out a no-fly zone, because that would mean we'd have to start shooting Russian planes down, and if we do that, we're going to have to put soldiers on the ground, and if we do that, it's World War III. Well, guess what? We're on the list. We're on the list. The bold Putin, he's making a list. He's checking it once. He's going to tell us who's getting fucked after the war. UK is on the list to get fucked. There's no point in panicking now. There's no point in holding back. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. We're on the list. I hope you've seen it. And if you've not, what a bloody list it is. Let me get the list up. Russia revenge list. 43 countries have been placed on the Russian revenge list. 43 nations facing retaliation for their support of Ukraine. Not my words. The words of the people at the Metro. The highest regarded publication in the land. You struggle to find an honest journalist these days. But not at the Metro. They're fucking brimming with them. And they've put together this list. Monday this was printed. Monday. It's now Wednesday. 40 hours have passed. Who knows what Putin has placed? What Putin has got in motion for these 43 countries. You know? And some of us are even looking at that map going, I mean, are we actually on that, Gibble? We are. We're on that. We're tiny. You know? This is the other thing when you actually start to look at a map of the world and how big Russia is and how big Ukraine is and how big the fucking UK is. We are absolutely tiny, man. In comparison to these boys, absolutely tiny. But we've made it. We're in the big leagues. We're in the revenge list, man. I mean, I imagine I, as an individual, are probably on a lot of revenge lists. But now, as a country, we can stand as one, united. So what do we do with that information? I have no idea. Do we sit back and we wait for the war to come to us? Or do we meet them head on in Belarus or Moldova or fucking one of the other countries that's close to it? I wish I'd done geography at school. I wish I'd actually listened at school, and then maybe I would be doing this. According to this news article, Vladimir Putin, his regime has published a list of 43 unfriendly countries. Now, define unfriendly, because I would say that the Scots... it's things like this when we need to differentiate between Scotland and the UK, you know? And I wish that some of the Russians would say, I wish that the Russians would come and go, we have made a list, 43 bastard countries who support Ukraine. You're fucked. As soon as we're done bombing Kiev and finding that bastard bitch Ghost of Kiev, we hang him from Moscow Square, then we come after 43 countries. UK, not Scotland. You guys are crazy motherfuckers. You okay, but England, you fucked. And then I'd be like, yeah, maybe we're all right. I mean, we're still Team Ukraine, and they need to realise we've got the nuclear weapon. No, Boris, us, Helensburgh. You know, never before has the people of Helensburgh held so much power than when Alberts used to run up and down the beach with his Labradors. Never has it been the centre of world media than when George Alberts, the hammer himself, could be seen running up and down Helensburgh Beach. So, Vladimir, let's go back to the article, shall we? What a start as well to the episode, man. 108. Fucking welcome. You know, like and subscribe, smash the bells, man. Whatever the fuck it is the way and say. Vladimir Putin's regime has published a list of 43 unfriendly countries who face economic restrictions in retaliation for imposing sanctions on Russia. Now, you could argue this is a bit of a PR stunt from the Russians saying, hey, you fucking tell us you're not doing this and we're not giving you and back and forth and blah, 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 and diplomatic nonsense and fine. But, you know, at a time when the Russians are invading Ukraine, it is a war, they do have nuclear powers, he's put them on standby. I don't want to be on any list for the Russians. Unless we're going, square go. The list includes all EU and NATO members. Oh, we're fucked then. As well as a host of financial powerhouses such as Japan, Singapore, Australia, and Switzerland. Fair enough, so Australia. A financial powerhouse, Australia. What? Real estate purchases, financial trades, and deals involving loans in rubles will now require special authorization from the Kremlin. If they leave companies for countries on the list, spelling chaos for business flowing in and out of Russia. Russian state media portrayed the move as a tough reaction to the international flurry of sanctions prompted by the invasion of Ukraine, which have cut off many Russians from international payment systems and nearly half the value of its currency. Also revealed the Kremlin's desperation to keep the Russian economy afloat. As the regulatory measures were quietly diluted, Putin's government simultaneously announced measures enabling Russian companies and citizens to pay debts owed in foreign currencies to overseas leaders from hostile countries in rubles. Russian banks have been ordered to offer special ruble accounts into which rubles, how many times are we going to say rubles in this article, can be paid and converted into foreign currencies. The central bank's office exchange rate, which is then paid to creditors, comes as a major U-turn from the Kremlin, who previously banned all transfers to foreign investors. I mean, in the name of fucking Christ. Mercy rising interest rate 20% temporarily cushioned the currency's fall. The vast majority of Russia's $630 billion war chest of gold and foreign currency has now effectively been frozen, making it harder to put an artificial floor under the ruble's value. Boris Johnson, the fucking dwindling idiot, was on Monday holding talks with Canada's Prime Minister, fuck me, and Dutch Prime Minister, big hitters here, in London as part of a wide preparation for further sanctions against Russia. Later on he will join US President Joe Biden. I mean, he can fucking get fucked as well. I suppose it's never been a better time, really, for Putin to go, do you know what, fuck it, I'm having a punt, man. I'm having another shot at the title. I'm going for it. If anybody has seen any of Joe Biden's speeches lately, I would be worried if I was an American citizen. I mean, it's bad enough when I need to listen to fucking Boris Johnson, but listening to some of Biden's speeches recently have been unbelievable. At one point, did they not call the Ukraine Iranians twice? Did they not call them Iranians in his speech to Congress? The guys, I mean, he needs put out pasture, man. It's almost torture what they're doing to that man. So we made the list. Good to know. Good to know we're on the radar. And that everything's moving in the right direction. We're now, I believe, at this point, 14 days, 2 weeks into the invasion stroke war. We're also 2 weeks out of COVID. Which, every cloud, cause for celebration. Huh? Fair play to Putin. He may have, started World War III, but he's also put an end to COVID. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I had known that the way to end COVID was simply for Russia to start the next World War, I probably would have said to him, hey, why don't you kick it off in the summer of 2022? Or 2020 even. What are you talking about, Gibbo? Exactly, 2020, 2 years ago. I do find, and I understand that it is possibly a treasonous act to dare speak ill of our National Health Service. But don't you find it a little bit interesting that we have gone, in the space of 24 hours from the invasion starting, to the NHS once again being on the brink of collapse, to suddenly 2 weeks into a war, not a fucking peep. Not a peep. I thought we were all still dying in our thousands from Omicron or fucking Delta 2.0. I thought people were still dropping like flies. COVID is in the air. It is rife. The NHS is at breaking point. Suddenly 2 weeks into a world war. Listen, we're not just pushed to our limits here. We're shattered. We're fucking knackered, It's, we're going to be all right. My mother now has COVID. And, she's taking it as well as can be expected. She's fucking raging. She's absolutely raging. She's fully jagged, every booster gone, and she's raging. I phoned her. She told me she wasn't feeling well, right? And every time that she's said in the past that she's not feeling well, I've, laughed and joked. It's COVID, as we have all done with friends and family. Family member phones you, I'm feeling terrible. It's COVID. You've got COVID. We joke, we jest. That's how far down the COVID line we now are. We joke that our family members have caught a virus that could potentially kill them. Or could it? I mean, there's still claims that actually only 17,000 people died from COVID in the UK because they were obviously all clambered in with their COVID-related deaths, and the actual deaths from the virus itself was only 17,000. But I'm not here to spread misinformation. I'm not Joe Rogan, for God's sake. I wish I had his money. But Margaret has it. Interesting fact as well. She actually got it from her employer, her boss. Even more interesting fact is that the woman actually works for the BBC in Scotland, and she travelled home from a holiday abroad, knowing full well that she had COVID. Oh, imagine that guy. What an interesting story that would be. Anyway, so I called her day one of the confirmed COVID. To which her response was, I'm raging. Her actual words. I says, how you feeling? She went, I'm raging. I can't believe you've got it. Now, most people would be, I suppose some of us may be quite happy. Getting at this stage when you're all jagged up, the chances of you succumbing to the virus now are probably slim to none. So you've got a nice wee 10-day isolation in the house. Catch up on some box sets. Make sure you're up to speed on Pam and Tommy. Very interesting programme, Pam and Tommy. Also interesting around the times of International Women's Day as well. When we stand by our brave women, our influential women, strong women in our lives. And a lot of people posting on social media about how much they're loving the programme, forgetting the fact that the woman in question herself, Pamela Anderson-Lee, put through absolute emotional, physical turmoil when the original tape was stolen and leaked. You cannot imagine the mental stress that the woman was put through, and now being made to relive it all over again for our entertainment. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that we talk openly about mental health and being kind to each other, and then a programme which the woman has clearly stated she does not want to be made is now being forced to relive the horror all over again, so we can watch Seth Rogen in a shit wig play an arsehole all over again. Wow. Almost as if a person's mental health and well-being isn't really that important as long as we're being entertained. Are you not entertained? Pamela Anderson-Lee, I really don't want this programme to be made. I don't want to relive the horror that was a horrific part of my life, and I do not wish for this programme to be made. Well, guess what, Pammy? Fucking Disney Plus have bought it, so it's getting made in. Wonderful. I did, however, watch... we're going off on a tangent here. I did, however, watch the Duel documentary, which is on Sky at the moment, about Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen to the end of last season. Now, I am a fair weather Formula One fan, in the sense that if it's on and there's nothing else to watch, I'll watch it. I like Formula One. I miss the old days when they used to refuel and cars would just catch fire. I miss those days. I don't wish for people to be hurt or maimed at their work, but there was something quite exciting and enjoyable about a car rushing down a lane and then spontaneously combusting. Something quite exciting about that. And those days now are gone, obviously. Again, all sorts of error messages up on the screen here. This is the joys of recording. Joys of recording from a steampunk powered Mac. Again, this is just reminding me as well. I have seen the news that the Ukrainian Prime Minister is addressing the UK Parliament, currently setting up. They've got the Ibrox beanbag team down in the House of Parliament, erecting large screens in the chamber so that our MPs can have a beanbag of the Ukrainians' fucking speech, man. It must be exciting for them. It must be a nice time. They're setting up the beanbag in the House of Parliament so that everybody in unison can turn around and tell you to fuck off. Really, it's effectively what this country is doing. I don't know, we're all doing our bit. Many of you have changed your social media profile to a blue and yellow screen. Some of you are wearing badges. Some of you may have even donated money to the DEC appeal. Fine. But we don't have the power to change anything. We can put as much pressure as we want on this government to do more for Ukrainian people. We can sit at home and we can eat our fucking new McDonald's offering of the chicken Big Mac Oh, yes, distraction. Sit at home in your warm house. Yes, your fucking gas prices are going through the roof. Your electricity's going up. Your council tax is going up. You're working to fucking exist. But you can sit there with your new McChicken Big Mac, zippity-doo-dah, stick on your news. And you can watch videos, clips, over and over again of innocent men, women and children being shot and killed in explosions. And even if you get to the point where you go, we have to do something about it. We have to pressure our government to go and help these people. We have to pressure our government to do more than they are doing. We have to pressure our government to allow people escaping a war zone to come to this country and be given safety for as long as they need. We can think these things and we can want to do that and we can pressure the government as much as we want. But what will happen? Fuck all will happen. Fuck all will happen. We couldn't even get rid of Boris when he was having parties at lockdown. We couldn't get rid of the bastard. Oh, that's forgotten about. I don't even know what I was saying there. I was getting myself so angry. I don't even know what I was saying. I was talking about the beanbag. What was I saying? Aye, the beanbag. And then I was talking about... do you know what it was? Because I'm thinking about the Apple. Because Apple's making a fucking statement, or made a statement on the 8th of March about usual shit. Here's the new stuff that's coming out for Apple. Give all your money. And I saw people tweeting about that during the day. About excited to watch it. And I'm going, there's a fucking war on, man. There's a literal war on. And people are tweeting excitement about Apple. But then, I mean, who am I to even question that? Because, you know, life has to go on. And I suppose more people do care about, you know, the new Apple product that's coming out. More people will care about that than they will about the situation in Ukraine. And I get it. Listen, I get it. I understand. You want to be distracted for life. What better to be distracted than a new Apple computer? You know, it's probably easy to digest. It's easy to understand. But this is why people like Vladimir Putin and the Russians can do whatever the fuck they want. Because when push comes to shove, we would rather be distracted by an Apple announcement. So I was watching the F1 documentary. Oh, tangent city of the day, man. I was watching the F1 documentary and I knew I never saw the final race of last season. I knew that Max Verstappen, who's the bad guy, he's Russia in this, and Lewis Hamilton, who's the Ukraine, right? Good versus evil. They had gone into the final race on equal points. And I think, now I could be wrong, as I said, I'm not a massive Formula 1 fan. I've got very itchy nose, man. Fucking some Shane Ward coke. Very itchy nose. And they got into the final race on exactly the same points. I don't know if it's ever happened in Formula 1 history, but they've gone in on the exact same number of points, effectively saying whoever wins this last race wins the championship. Max Verstappen going for his first ever world title, Lewis Hamilton going for his 8th world title. And it was very interesting. It's a two-parter. It's about an hour and 10 minutes in each. And it kind of just showed you the inner workings of the relationships within Formula 1, the hierarchy within Formula 1, the manipulation that goes on within Formula 1. And those of you who are F1 fans will know it came to the final race. Lewis Hamilton is miles in front. He's winning it. He's got the thing sewn up in the bag, so much so that the commentators actually went to do an interview, a live chat with Christian Horner, who is the Red Bull's is it principal manager? Is that what they're called? And even Christian Horner is saying that, you know, barring a miracle, Lewis Hamilton has won this. I imagine at that point the miracle he's alluding to would be Lewis Hamilton to have a crash, right? So then what happens is someone else has a crash, safety car is sent out, Max Verstappen comes in pits to put on new tyres. Lewis Hamilton asks if he wants to come back in to get new tyres. They decline. New tyres obviously been an important factor because the newer your tyres, the fresher your tyres, you're going to have more grip and more speed. But the way it would work is a safety car will go out, they'll all bunch up, it'll go for one further lap, Lewis Hamilton will win the one lap, and he's won the race because he should win it, because he's led for the whole fucking race. There are 5 cars between him and Verstappen. The chances of Verstappen overtaking 5 cars within one lap and shortening that time and then overtaking Lewis Hamilton, it's not going to happen. So everything's still fine. The race director comes over the mic and announces that the 5 cars, the lapped cars, will not be allowed to overtake, as is the rules from what I understood in the documentary. Then for some reason, and they allude to the fact that the Red Bull team has been in his ear and have developed this relationship over time, he then comes back on and announces that the 5 cars who have been lapped have to be allowed to pass in order to catch up and rejoin the back of the race, effectively putting Verstappen and Hamilton now right next to each other, when before they had 5 cars between them and a vast time difference. So explain to me how that was fair. And then you can imagine what happens. The race begins, and off they pop. They have now gone from being a huge distance apart to now being literal side by side. And Max Verstappen on the fresh tyres overtakes Lewis Hamilton and wins the World Championship. The fact that was allowed to happen is shocking. The race, the guy who's responsible for the racing, is it the principal race? I can't remember his official title. He's obviously been fired from his job. There's a bit later on in it when Max Verstappen's been interviewed and he says, I think they threw him under the bus a wee bit. They buried him, as the exact words. He says, they buried him. No one stood up for him. And I went, they buried him because of you cunt. You cost that man his career because you wanted to win the world title and you couldn't take it that Lewis Hamilton beat you on the day. And I don't buy into this whole fact of people's arguing that over the season Max Verstappen won more races. I don't care. You had the exact same points. That's why there's a point system. You had the exact same points going into the end, and Lewis Hamilton was beating you. Lewis Hamilton was beating you by a considerable distance, and you had to cheat your way to a victory. I really do hope that Lewis Hamilton comes back this season and wins the whole damn thing. I hope he fucking smashes him out the water. I hope Verstappen doesn't even get close. I hope he's not even in the running. Because watching that back and seeing the full ins and outs of it, it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. Give it a watch, but it's worth it. It's Formula 1's quite interesting. There's a good documentary on, I think it's Netflix, where it's basically like behind the scenes of Formula 1, and it's a very interesting sport. There's so much politics involved. It's almost like a soap opera. It's like a TV soap meets a sport all mixed in. It's unbelievable, man. I can't even remember what the documentary on Netflix is called, but it's F1. So if you put in F1, it'll come up. You'll find it. You know what I mean? Aye, poor Lewis, man, robbed at the end. But then you probably think to yourself, Gabbo, is that something that's really important considering everything that's going on in the world? It's probably not. So let's move on with some other exciting news items. You know, there's really no good news in the world at the moment. It's all pretty upsetting. However, not many news stories more upsetting than this. And I suppose in the situation that we find ourselves in when Russia, right? And there might be some of you going, Gibbo, stop going on about Russia. At this moment in time, I can't, because it's dominating everything, right? And I don't think we realise how much the situation is going to affect us. Not just oil and gas, but things like wheat and the number of the levels of production that Russia controls. And even things like oil and gas. People are currently now focused on the price of petrol at the pump. But this situation affects everything. It'll affect the cost of food. It'll affect every single product you have, because these things need to be delivered, which again, the trucks have to run. Stuff has to be brought in through freight. All of this adds to cost, and all of this cost is passed on to us, the common man and woman, the mugs. And people might be sitting going, I'm not really getting involved in the Russia situation because it doesn't affect me. Well, it does affect you, and it does affect us all. And this is how it's affecting us, because for the first time in fucking human history, a Greg sausage roll is set to cost more than £1. That's right. So if you're sitting at home going, Listen, just let Putin do what he does, man. That doesn't affect us. A sausage roll is going to cost more than £1. And you're telling me that this war isn't affecting you? I mean, I don't know what else I need to say. Imagine a time when a sausage roll for Greggs could cost more than £1. If somebody, when you were a young lad, a whippersnapper, up and down the high street, enjoying a Greggs, even when Greggs went through that huge refurbishment, when they tried to turn themselves into some kind of like fancy American diner, and you would go in, and those Greggs workers would be forced, very much like the Russian people, forced to greet you with a smile. When we all know that Greggs staff just want to spit on you. They hate you. But that's why we love Greggs. They hate us. We hate them. We hate ourselves for being there. We all wish we had the kind of money to go to Pret. I mean, they killed a fucking wee lassie on a plane, for God's sake. Sold her a sandwich full of nuts. She exploded in mid-air. And they fuckers are still trading. But we wish they had the money to go to Pret for some fancy Italian sausage roll or a prawn sandwich. We wish we could go there. Would you like a single piece of fruit for £14? I fucking wish I had the money to go to Pret, but I don't. I go to Greggs for a sausage roll and a yum-yum and a coffee. Some of the worst coffee you'll ever have in your life. But my God, what a strong cup it is. And the pure disdain for humanity that the staff in Greggs have is wonderful. And sometimes I just stand in Greggs in a queue, because there's always a queue, and I look at the people behind the till, and I think, what horror have you gone through in your life that has led you to this point? But even if you could go back 10, 15 years, and you stopped an average person in the street and said, do you know that at one point, soon in the future, a Greggs sausage roll is going to cost more than £1? You would think to yourself, I hope to live to be that age, because you might be thinking I'll be 110 by that time. No, it's now. It's now. Article again for the Metro. It's the only place to get your news these days. It's bad news for sausage roll devotees. As Greggs has warned, prices could rise for a second time this year due to a soaring staff and ingredient cost. I mean, in the name of fucking God, man. The bakery chain is facing an increase of up to 7% in the name of fuck in its running expenses, and says it can't rule out passing the extra costs on to customers. The looming price hike comes as inflation in the UK hits a record high and the cost of living continues to surge. I mean, it's going to surge through the roof now if a sausage roll better than £1. Profits will also be squeezed by global prices rise as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine supply around a third of the world's wheat export. What did I tell you? And Ukraine is a major supplier of sunflower oil. Greggs has vowed to try and protect its reputation for providing outstanding value for money, but the company said in a statement that rising costs necessitated some price increases which were made at the start of the year, adding further charges are expected to be necessary. Oh my God, man. Oh my God. 2020, year of COVID. 2021, COVID continued. 2022, the rise of the sausage roll. Mr. Whiteside, Greggs CEO, said, we've got no plans to raise prices currently, but obviously what's going on have to remain under review given the way the markets are moving around the world and commodity food prices in particular. If the market allows prices to increase, we will have to pass them on to customers. We will attempt to absorb costs first. If it doesn't, then we won't be able to hold back, he added. The pandemic saw Greggs' profits crumble as it announced its first loss in 36 years, going almost 14 million into the red in 2020 when many branches were forced to close. But it swung back into the black last year, raking in 145.6 million profit before tax. I mean, now listen, I am, in jest, making fun at the, situation of a Greggs sausage roll costing £1. But I'm sure those of you who are educated listeners to the podcast can read between the lines. Because obviously I make fun about a sausage roll costing £1, and we make fun about things like Greggs. But the reality is, and probably a lot of people don't like to admit it. A lot of people don't like to think about it. But Greggs serves a place for many people. It serves a place for most of us where we go in there and we get a cheap coffee, a quick coffee, and maybe a cake or a bun or a sandwich, or indeed a sausage roll. But for many people, and that's the worrying thing, for many people across this country, Greggs is possibly their only viable option of a warm lunch. It's the only option they have. For a lot of people, getting a sausage roll or a steak bake or some kind of meal deal out of Greggs is potentially their only option they have, because they cannot afford anything else. And we can laugh and we can joke all we want. But at the same time, the other thing that we need to start thinking about, and the other thing that we need to be aware of, is every single company at this moment in time who is raising their prices, they are raising their prices to protect their profit margins. I mean, look at that news story there. 2020, 2 years ago, because of the pandemic, Greggs, according to this article, made its first loss in 36 years. So in 36 years, it has been a profitable company. It's made profit every single year. Now, that is not profit from its sales. That is profit from everything. It's operating costs, it's staffing wages, it's raw ingredients. Every single thing that is involved in maintaining and running that business, it has made a profit on top of that for 36 years. 1 year, 2020, it lost 14 million. Now, 14 million is a huge sum of money. If any of us had 14 million, our lives would change overnight. But then look at the other figures. It swung back into the black 1 year. Back into the black, that was an Amy Winehouse song. It swung back into the black 1 year later in 2021. 37 years. 1 year it suffers a loss, 14 million. Then it swings back into profit, and you may be thinking, well, if it lost 14 million, maybe its profit is like maybe 2 million. It's clawed that back. Its profit, 145.6 million. 145.6 million is the profit that it made. So you take off the 14, 141, 140 for easy maths. In 2 years, it's made a profit of 140 million. Now, as its costs rise, I get it. Costs rise, fine. We've talked about wheat, we've talked about oil and gas. But how is it these companies cannot take this profit and just level it out? If you are a company and you are covering all your costs, your operating costs, your staffing costs, everything is covered, and you're making a profit of £100, still a profit, everything's covered. You're making a profit of 100,000, a million, fine, but a profit of 140 million. And you still have to raise the price of your products that are used, a service that is utilised by the poorest group of people in society. But a profit of 140 million just isn't enough. It isn't enough for some companies to say, well, we're not going to change our pricing. We're not going to put up the cost of petrol. We're not going to put up the cost of diesel. We're not going to put up the cost of food, because we are going to absorb that cost, because we have had 36 years of profiting from our customers. This is the stuff that's getting me. When I'm seeing the cost of things rising, and I am listening to the news, and I'm talking about those costs and that expense being passed to the consumer, even though companies continue to turn a profit. I mean, with news the other day that Shell, good old Shell, has decided to stop buying Russian oil. It's made a commitment. It's like, listen, we're done with it. We've heard it, we've seen all the stories. Wayne's line did. Granny's been shot out of buildings, and we've said enough is enough. And people thought, fucking fair play to Shell. Then it emerges that, of course, a week into the war, and literally 1 week before it made this announcement, Shell had gone out and acquired a vast sum of crude oil from Russia at a knockdown price. It then puts out some wishy-wash statement saying it understands and it sees that was a bad move and a mistake to make, but it's not giving the oil back. It's not dropping its price. So at the time, there was an oil tankard, full of Russian crude oil. I believe at the time, I want to say it was trading about $120 a barrel. And because the oil is on this tanker, this ship, and it needs to go somewhere, and Shell's argument was that it still had to make the commitment that it had to its suppliers, so it has to get the oil from somewhere, they made a deal with the Russian oil company, and they were given a discount of $20 on a barrel. So not only is Shell making a great deal for that oil, it's making even bigger profit when it sells it, because it's now selling it at the inflated price, even though it's bought at a discounted price. And then once it does that, and it sends it to its petrol station, and it sends it to its pumps, and you go out there and you pay £1.60 for a litre, or whatever the fuck it is you're paying, it then comes out with a statement going, listen, I know we shouldn't have done that, but it was just too good a price to turn down, and we love a bargain. I mean, fair play on them. So do we. British people love a bargain. It doesn't matter that there's women and children lying dead in the street. We fucking love a bargain. Fucking Greggs, man. A Greggs sausage roll should come with a £5 voucher to get petrol in your motor. And I know, again, I'm going off and I'm ranting here and I'm being a bit daft, because at the end of the day, it's a sausage roll, right? And it probably is worth £1. I mean, the fact that you're buying any hot food for under £1 is mental. But then don't put out a statement and don't give it the big I am about, we've got to absorb these costs as much as we can, and eventually, sadly, we're going to have to pass them on to the customer, when you've been turning a profit of 140 million. You fucking dicks. What else is this? The company also unveiled plans to extend later opening times in 500 shops across the nation. It will start offering delivery from 1,300 stores, up from 1,000. Greggs increased its slice of profits despite the UK food-to-go market remaining depressed and commuter footfall stubbornly below pre-COVID levels, says Ross Hindle, data analyst at Third Bridge. He warned with a low wow factor of its vegan offerings now a distant memory, Greggs needs to provide more innovative and broad meal and drink choices, experts say. Staff who have been with the business for more than 6 years and work 20 hours a week are set to take home an £800 bonus. Good for you. Good for Greggs. I'm sure they can use that bonus money to buy sausage rolls at a discount price. Do Greggs staff get discounts? Do they get a Greggs card? Is a Greggs card a thing? Like a black Nando's card? Listen, I love Greggs, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it, And people who say things like, I mean, what is actually in that sausage roll? Lips and arseholes. I do not care. I love it. It's delicious. It's tasty. But I do get annoyed when certain companies bang on about having to pass these costs onto consumers, onto me and you, when they're turning profits of hundreds of millions of pounds. It just isn't right. And I get that there's not going to be any morals in business. I get that. But it just feels as if everything is going to get to a point where something has to give, man. And we cannot continue to be on this road where we are literally knocking our pan in 5 days a week, and all you have to show at the end of it is that you put everything out to pay bills. It just isn't right, man. It just is not right. Right, what else have we got here? Let's do this story, which is absolutely shocking, if I'm being honest with you. When I first saw it, I mean, I was trying to find actually some nice-hearted, joyful news stories, and I'm struggling. I'm going to be honest with you. And then when I saw this, I thought, in the name of the wee man, I hope the woman is alive and well. Oh my God. That was a burp and a sneeze at the same time. I do apologise. Excuse me. Oh. Do you know what? Before we go into that, let me just say this. On International Women's Day, as I record this podcast, shout out to my missus, who is not only an incredible woman, the best woman I've ever met. She is now also a registered gas and oil engineer. And I know you're thinking, Gibble, you're taking this a bit far. with the whole gas and oil situation. Your missus has now become Corgan registered. But we were without heating in the house for 2 days. And it just happened to be the coldest 2 days in the history of fucking humankind. Again, sod's law, as soon as the heating came back on, it was a fucking beautiful scorching day outside, so we didn't need the heating on. I've got oil heating, right? Which is possibly the worst time to have oil heating. Oil heating, my fault, let the oil run down, right? Not to dry, although I'm frustrated. I looked in the tank, I can see myself reflecting the red diesel, there's oil in the tank, right? But the heating's not coming on. And I'm realising that the pipe, the kind of funnel, the valve that draws the oil from the tank is slightly above the level of the oil. Now, there's oil in there. There's probably a good 8 inches of oil. I mean, that's a couple of, a dozen litres at least. But it's never going to get to that because it's just underneath the funnel, the valve bit. So it's pulling air and it's no turning the heating on and couldn't get the heating, right? So 2 days to do it. The missus phones a letting agent. Letting agent is cheeky as fuck. And this is a horrific letting agent. It's one I've only ever had it once in the past where I've had a letting agency and they're just horrible people. And it really does it makes you feel differently about the property. I love this house. The house is great. It's a great size. I even moaned the other day. I was walking for the living room. We were watching something on the telly, and I got up for a pee, and I'm walking, and I actually had to stop. I mean, I said it, and then after I said it, I kind of went into my head going, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I complained that I had to walk too far to get to the bathroom. I complained my house is too big. And I had to walk through. I walked through the living room. I walked down the hall into the big hallway, and I was like, I'm walking for miles just to go for a piss. So I found myself complaining my house is too big, which I mean, fucking middle class problems. Anyway, I love the house, and because the letting agency we've got, they're arseholes, right? They're just fucking horrible arseholes, and it's made me feel a little bit different about the house. And I hope that feeling goes. If no, I'm going to find someone else and then I'll be fucking going. Anyway, so, no help to us, right? I came back in late one night and came out of the garage and the house is stinking of oil, right? And I thought, what the fuck has happened? And my missus is covered in grease and I was like, hello, sexy. And I panicked because the front is off the kind of boiler system for the oil heating, right? And I thought, what's going on? She then proceeds to tell me she's been reading manuals, right? And she's been watching YouTube videos. And I'm like, to be fair, you've gone to a far more extent than any man would, because I would have probably ripped it off, started turning levers, and kicked it and went, it's fucked in, you need to phone a man in. Long story short, we eventually got it working. Somebody for the village came up to help. And turns out that my missus was doing everything right. She just wasn't draining the system for long enough. She was a bit worried that she was doing it too long, and actually she should have done it longer, but everything she was doing was right. And I was very impressed because I thought, if it never happens again, we know now how to fix it and how to bleed the system and how to draw it on, and it's great. But getting the oil in and getting the heating back on, man, it was so joyful, man. See, going for that first shower, not having a wash in 2 days, I just felt minging. Blasting hot water. I was like, oh yes, baby Jesus, clean my soul. But very impressed by a good lady. She's some woman, man. She's some woman. Got stuck in there, and she fixed her heating. So we're now full up. Couple of 100 litres in the tank. Cost a bloody fortune, but heating's back on. And of course, since the heating's gone on, the sun has been shining. The sun's been shining. Sod law. Right, back to this story. So, when I saw this, I thought, in the name of the wee man, this is some story. And it is this. A mother gives birth to a 11-pound, 5-ounce baby, the same size as a bowling ball. And I thought, holy fucking shit, what is going on? 11 pound, 5 ounce, almost 11.5 pound. Now, I was, 8 pound 4? I was a big baby, because I remember my dad phoning my grandpa, and he's like, how heavy is he? He's like, he's 8 stone 4, and he's like, what? I went, 8 pound 4. But this Wayne, 11 pound 5. I don't know if the mother is still with us, I hope to God that the Wayne was cut out the sunroof, because look at the size of that Wayne. That is a fucking unit. What a bloody baby that is. That's a monster. A monster. 11 pound 5 ounce Wayne. Jesus Christ. Now, is this global warming? Is this GM foods? What is this? Because it felt as if there was a time, maybe like 5-6 years ago, when all these Waynes were coming out and they were toty. They were the size of a pea. And then a big 11 fucking pounder comes along. And I like the way there's also the reference is the size of a bowling ball. I mean, that kid's going to grow up to have some issues anyway. I also don't know where this is from. The baby, I mean. I know where the story's from. It's the Metro. It's the only place to get news. I feel as if this is either going to be an American thing or Eastern Bloc. The women out there are a different breed. Strong like bear. Like Geordies. You know? And I imagine if anybody's going to fire out an 11 pound plus baby, it's an Eastern European. Helen Sellers, 34, gave birth to her daughter Celia 5 weeks ago, who weighed a whopping 11 pound 5 ounce. Holy shit! The mum of two, a mental health nurse, she's got to need some counselling after that, even said that Cecilia was one of the biggest babies her midwife had ever delivered in 16 years. I mean, that is a claim to fame. I suppose, and this is the thing, because you have big babies and you have wee babies and they grow up to be the opposite. You can have big babies that grow up to be wee people and wee babies that grow up to be big people. So just because you're a big baby doesn't mean you're going to be a big person, right? I was a standard baby and I'm fucking massive. So it doesn't really matter, right? But if you're gonna be born, I suppose you maybe do want to break some records, you know? I imagine as a father you want to be handed your child and for the midwife to go, that is the most beautiful baby I've ever seen. Or they hand you and go, in all my time, 16 years on the tool, son. That's the biggest bastard baby I've ever seen. That's probably what you want to hear. Again, it's the stupid nature of the male mentality. Right? You probably, as a man, you're like, damn right, fucking father, the biggest bastard baby ever. My wife will never walk again. She's completely lost her legs, but what the size of weight on her? 11 pound 5 ounce. Celia's brother, Roman, he weighed 9 pound, fucking big boy. And Helen, husband and husband Carl, 37, were both under 9 pound, right? Standard. Helen from Leeds, they're UK, they're English. Said Carl, 6'7", in the name of God, but he wasn't a big baby, so I'm not sure why Cecilia was so big. Oh, aye, it's a postman. While I was pregnant, my consultant said the baby was going to be big, but not as big as Roman. I never expected her to be that weight. We played guess the weight with the family, and my cousin put 11 pounds, and I thought that was cheeky, but it was right. Celia had to go straight into the, oh my God, the baby, Celia, had to go straight into 0 to 3 month old clothes when she came into the world, as none of the newborn clothes would fit her. Oh, the wee lamb. I'd bought a couple of baby grows that were up to 1 month, and I didn't even bother getting them out the packet. Helen said I knew they wouldn't fit her. At just 5 weeks, she's already in 3 to 6 month clothing, and Cecilia's large size also impacted Helen's labour, meaning she had to have a cesarean. Thank God for that, Helen. Now, listen, the birth of, the miracle of childbirth astonishes me and terrifies me. I don't understand these people who are, and I obviously I'm a man. I'll never understand the joy of childbirth, but I've done a couple of Guinness shites in my time, so I feel your pain. I don't get this whole thing of, I want a natural birth, I want to shite it out in a bubble bath of water, smelling salts, and looking out on the fucking swinging baskets of Babylon. Fill your cell with as many drugs as possible. And if they offer you a sunroof, cut the bastard out. Cut it out. There's no heroes here, love. You're not. What, you might get an extra chocolate biscuit for firing out a 11 pound baby? Fuck that. Helen, the mother, said I had to have a C-section and it took them ages to get her out. No wonder. They're probably having to move every fucking organ in your body, cut your spine off to get an 11 pound baby out. They probably had to get a winch in. I imagine the midwives sent somebody out to get her husband who's a mechanic, and he brought in one of the winches that lifts fucking engines out of Ford Corsa. A Ford Car, it's a Vauxhall. Oh, come on, Scott. I was going to say a Ford Cortina. I'm like, how old's that reference? Some guy in fucking oil overalls, and he's just got the mask on covering his face. Right, lads, get this chain up now. £11, baby, in the name of Christ. I initially wanted to try a natural delivery. I bet you did, Hen, but I'm glad I didn't. Obviously, because you'd have fucking ripped your legs off. You're an arsehole with a windsock. She says, I'm not sure it would have come out. It wouldn't have come out. They'd have had to fucking rip both your arse cheeks off to fire at an £11 baby. Here we go, this is a good bit. The record for the heaviest baby in the UK, here we go, is held by Guy Carr, who was born in 1992 at £15 8 ounce. Holy shit! 15 pounds. How many? Hold on. How many pounds are in a? There's 14 pound in a stone. He's a fucking stone. He's one stone. Somebody gave birth to a 1 stone baby. 1 stone, 1 pound. Holy shit. Did the woman survive that? Guy Carr, 1992, £15 8 ounce. He too was delivered by C-section. Obviously, although George Joseph King was born in 2013 at £15 7 ounce. Gee, oh my God, is the largest to be delivered naturally. What the fuck? That woman delivered a £15 7 ounce baby with a natural, but oh my, listen. See all this bullshit about footballers getting fucking peerages, knighthoods and everything. That woman should be given a knighthood. All of the women. If you have delivered a baby naturally that is £15 7 ounce, you should be given the keys to a city. You should be a superstar. You shouldn't pay tax the rest of your life. You should be given a free house and a knighthood. You should be a dame. Put her in the House of Lords instead of the fucking oligarchs that runs the Evening Standard. If you have delivered a baby that is £15 7 ounce, you shouldn't have to fucking work a day in your life. I don't imagine she does work a day in her life. I imagine she's doing a vegetable. Bloody hell. That's actually giving me a pain in my fucking bollocks thinking about that. A £15 baby. During the pregnancy, Helen had a big bump, obviously, and a few people asked if she was having multiple bambinos. Helen said, my bump was huge. I always had people asking if I was having twins. She says, no, I'm just having one big... Maybe it was twins. Maybe it was meant to be twins, and he fucking absorbed it into one giant baby. Who knows? There was one lady at work who asked me a few times if I was sure it wasn't twins. The doctor tested me for gestational diabetes, but they were negative. I can't even say that word. Helen, good luck to you, hen. And to baby Celia, I hope you're all safe and well. Because that is some fucking shift you've done, hen. Jesus Christ. I mean, £11.5 is monstrous, but a £15 7, holy spirit, activate. That'd be terrifying, man. That would be terrifying. You'd be worried that it's going to come out like fully formed. Alright, what's happening, troops? Wee fag and they go, £15, here we go, man, record breaker. Do you think that's on his Tinder profile? Or that's his opening line at a dinner party? So tell us something interesting about yourself. I'm the fucking biggest baby ever born in the UK, mate. I ripped my motte shreds, my man. £15 7. What a great claim to fame that would be. For all the people that are famous right now in the UK, all the fucking Love Islanders and the Instagram influencers and all these arseholes, why is it not common knowledge that the man who's the fucking heaviest baby ever born in the UK, why is he not a celebrity? £15 7, my man. Natural, squeeze me right out, mate. What a mess I made. I've not spoke to my mom since, man. Fucking what a mess. Holy smokes. What a time to be alive, team. What a time to be alive. And we're going to finish on this. We're going to finish on one story, which is it's a horrible story. It's a horrible situation, man. And it's one that I think we should discuss, and I think people should talk about it, and I think we maybe need to have more things like this just now, because I do think the situation in Ukraine is horrendous, and I am worried that as it goes on, it just becomes another part of the news. It becomes another part of our lives, something that we talk about, but we never really act on. We had a time during COVID when we would all go out and clap for the NHS, and the BBC would take great delight in sharing videos of people leaving chocolates on top of their neighbour's car because their neighbour was a nurse or they were going off to work, and doctors and staff nurses crying as they would come home as neighbours were out in the garden clapping. And it was a beautiful thing, and stuff like that does something, I suppose, to the human psyche, and it makes us feel as though we're involved, but the reality of it is we're not involved at all. We can do a lot for the situation in Ukraine. Some of you, I imagine, have. You can donate money. You can be involved in trying to pressure government. You can organise petitions to be signed. Some of you may even be going over there to offer support firsthand. But it's important that I think we remember these things are real, and it's actually happening. This is a real war. People are dying. Innocent people are being killed on both sides, in Ukrainian and the Russian side. You see videos of people getting dragged away in Moscow Square outside the Kremlin who are protesting this, and you think they'll fucking never be seen again. And we say it flippantly. I say it all the time. I saw a video the other day of a boy, a student, having a sign kicked out his hand by Russian police and then dragged off into a van. And I said stupidly, I went, oh, he'll never be seen again. That's him dead. And it probably is. But this is how cheap human life is. We can joke about it. And I suppose we can joke about it because it's no in our faces yet. It's not our reality. But as much as it may be an exaggeration of a Third World War, we don't know how this is going to pan out. We really don't. And when I saw this one, it made me think of the video that I'd seen of the old couple being passed over to the German family as well. And this is the stuff that you may have seen in the news. It's an 11-year-old boy who had travelled across the Slovakian border, I believe. We'll probably find out more when we read this article. 11 years of age, he appeared at the border unaccompanied. He had a backpack with a few bits and pieces in it, and he had a telephone number written in his hand, which I believe is for his family. Imagine for a situation, imagine for a minute, those of you who have children, find yourself in a position where you have no better option than to send your child off towards a border unaccompanied in the hope that he might find safe refuge there. Imagine for a second how terrified that family must have felt sending that young boy off with nothing more than a backpack full of bits and pieces and a phone number written in his hand in the hope that you possibly survive the horror that you are in and that he can one day maybe make his way back to you or you can find him. It must have been absolutely horrendous. I watched a video of, and it's the first time that I cried watching something on the news about Ukraine. And it was a guy who had brought his elderly parents to a border, and they were being handed over to a German family. He'd met them on social media, he'd been talking to them, and this German family had agreed to take his elderly mum and dad in and look after them. And he'd taken them to the border, and then he had to go back to fight, because as you know, men between 18 and 60, they're not allowed to leave the country. They have to go and defend Ukraine, they have to fight. His father, I think, has a form of dementia or some other disability. Never met these people in their life. Don't really know anything about them other than what they've discussed in social media. And he met this German couple at the border, and then he hands his mother and father over to them. And he turns to go back. God knows where he's came from. God knows how far or how long he's travelled. He turns to go back. And his father's wanting to come in. His father doesn't understand what's going on. And it really upset me, and I thought, imagine getting to that point where you literally are handing over the most important people in your life in the hope, and to a stranger in the hope that someone will look after them. And imagine doing that with your children. Imagine you're in a situation where you're a single father, you've maybe been a horrific time where you've lost your mother, and you've got 2 kids, 3 kids, whatever, 1 kid, and you've got to hand them over at a border to a stranger in the hope that they will look after them until you go back and fight to save your country. And yet we still have a government that is refusing to let people in. And if you are one of the very few, I hope that is, that say, but we don't know the threat that these people could cause to the UK, go take a fuck to yourself. Go and take a fuck to yourself. 11-year-old child, a child, 11 years of age, handed over at a border with nothing but a bag full of bits and bobs and a phone number. The article says a young Ukrainian boy is being hailed a hero after travelling 600 miles to safety by himself. 11-year-old from Zaporozhye fled to Slovakia with a single plastic bag and a phone number written in his hand. His mother put him on a train heading for the border in the hope he would be taken in by kind-hearted strangers. In a video, the boy's mother said, there's a nuclear power plant next to my town which the Russians were shooting at. It's now on fire. I can't leave my mother. She can't move independently, so I've sent my son alone on a train toward the Slovak border. There he met people with a big heart, a small country with people with big hearts. Please save our Ukrainian children and give them a safe haven. Thanks to the phone number in his hand, the boy's relatives in Slovakia were contacted and they came to pick him up. His family in Ukraine live in the shadow of a power plant, Europe's largest nuclear power station near the Black Sea. It's taken over by Russian troops after heavy shelling last week, prompting widespread condemnation over fears it could trigger one of the biggest radiation leaks in history. Putin's forces have also taken over Chernobyl, the site of the worst nuclear disaster in 1986. Ukrainian officials warn the Russian leader is risking a large-scale ecological disaster after rockets were also reportedly fired at a nuclear research facility in Kharkiv, which contains nuclear material and a reactor. 11 years of age. Sent to a border. Sent away for his home and his safety. In the hope that someone will look after him. Fucking brutal times, man. Brutal times. So I suppose moaning about a Greggs sausage roll or paying £1.80 a litre, it's probably a small price to pay, because at least you get to spend at night with your family and your friends and the people you love. And right now, we will never really understand what the people in Ukraine are going through. What a fucking shit time. How does it play out? No idea. When does it end? Not a clue. But something's got to change soon, man, because I think the way things are going, the sanctions, the threat of more sanctions, it's having absolutely no impact whatsoever. And there is a little bit of me, and I suppose a little bit of all of us, that thinks there's never going to be a time when we're fighting Russian soldiers on the streets of the UK. But maybe that isn't what the next war looks like. Maybe the next war continues to be in countries so far away we don't know. Maybe it continues to be in countries that we've never been to. We probably likelihood would never visit. So we are still have that element of being detached from it. But when you're seeing things like this and you're hearing stuff like that, how long can we continue to be completely detached from it? I don't know. Odd episode. Odd end. Aye. Can it all be comedy gold? Till next time, stay safe. Look after yourselves. If you're not in the Patreon, become a rascal. Patreon.com/Big Scott Gibson. Extra show every single week. Please do share the posts. Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll see you in the battlefield very soon. Take care of yourself, team.